the Nikki Jencen Show. Hey, what's up, mamas? Welcome to the Nikki Jencen Show. I'm Nikki Jencen. Thank you so much for being here today and being present. I have a awesome guest for you today. His name is Jeffery Arnson, and he is so full of knowledge. Let me tell you a story, okay? Back in 2016, I was super gung-ho on fermented foods. And I was even preaching, I was like, fermented foods all the way. I did my last batch of making my purple apple sauerkraut on my kitchen counter. Why was that my last batch? Because I got super sick. After I ate my sauerkraut that I had made myself and fermented on my countertop, I got really sick. I mean, down on the floor. I should have went to the hospital, kind of sick. And I had my husband come home. I had my parents come over. I hate going to the hospital. I almost refused to go to that sick sanctuary. So I chose to stay home. I did follow up with my doctor, which of course he found nothing. But what I think happened is I got a bad bacteria from the fermented food that I made. Now, this isn't the first time that I had felt sick from fermented foods. So I started to think to myself, maybe fermenting is not for me. Maybe is this parasites, die off? Is it candida die off? Is that why I'm feeling sick? Is that why I have these pains? Because the fermented foods are attacking the parasites and the candida, and that's why I don't feel good? Maybe. But Jeff Arnson posted something that caught my eye and my attention. Now, if you are a lover of apple cider vinegar, not only because you think that it's healthy for you or because you think you're gonna lose weight, I really want you to think about maybe second guessing fermented foods, oranges, and raw apple cider vinegar. Here's Jeff. Hello, Jeffrey. How are you?
Hi, Nikki. Thanks. Great. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the Nikki Jencen Show. I truly appreciate you and all of your knowledge, because I know that you have a wide, vast knowledge about health, nutrition, and the blood. You are a nutritional I said it earlier, microscopist.
Yes. And that's what I shared. I think the hardest thing about becoming a microscopist is learning how to say microscopist.
Yeah. Microscopist. Yes, I got it.
Yes, you got it. Yeah, just don't get us mad.
Do you remember meeting me by any chance?
I do.
You do?
At Green Square Center for the Healing Arts.
Yes, we were taking a cooking class.
Yes. And
yes.
you've been in the back of my mind ever since. And I thought,
same here. I'm so glad that we got to be reconnected and that you're jumping on the show to, talk about, various things. I really want to know what you know about apple cider vinegar and how it affects the blood. I'm very intrigued by this. So first of all, I want to know, how did you get into this field?
It's an interesting story. I was in finance. I was managing a U.S. bank locally, and I was a type 1 diabetic at the time. And I say now that I was a type 1 diabetic because I am no longer one. But I became a type 1 when I was 21 as a result of a helmet-to-helmet college football accident, kind of. And I could have done anything athletically at age 21, but I was going to start taking insulin. As time went by, I gained a lot of weight and became much more acidic, because being a type 1 is an extremely difficult chore. It's like playing God with your blood sugars, and I'm not God. Well, we started our family, and when I'd been type 1 for 27 years, and my then 9-year-old daughter became a type 1 diabetic. And my wife and I sat down and prayed for help. And we were told by a friend of my wife's at church, that she should read the pH Miracle that addresses by Dr. Robert O. Young. She did read it that night, and told me the next day that we had to start eating more like vegans and get our blood tested by that nutritional microscopist, or microscopist. And so I called out at the pH Miracle Center and said, does anybody do that blood work? I'm in Wisconsin. And I was told, well, just by chance, Dr. Young is going to be lecturing in Minneapolis. That's in Wisconsin, isn't it? And I said, no, but it's close. They were purple, we were green and gold, and it was close. So the three of us, my daughter, my wife, and I, each went to see Dr. Young that weekend. It was in 2 weeks after I called, and we were amazed because we got our blood analyzed, and my blood looked terrible. My wife's blood looked gorgeous, just like she does, and our daughter was kind of a mix. It didn't look gorgeous and it didn't look terrible. So I found out there was a nutritional microscopy course, the basic course, in 2 weeks out at the ranch in California. So I signed up, and I thought, I've got to set a better example to my daughter about how to live with diabetes, because at the time, I didn't think I would make it to 50, literally, and I think at that time I was 47. So I went out to the ranch, learned nutritional microscopy, became certified shortly thereafter. You become certified after doing 100 live demonstrations, and then shortly after that, I was elected president of the International Microscopy Association, and I thought I would have been a good vice president. But and then in 2000, this was in 2003 that I became a microscopist. In 2007, Dr. Young asked me to teach the advanced course in London, England, and I told him I haven't taken the advanced course, and he said, no. He said, you are the advanced course. So I thought, okay.
Oh,
and
wow.
So,
promotion.
Yeah, I guess that's how it moves. And I was able to take my wife and daughter along with me because they kind of got me into this. And it's just been crazy. It's just been so exciting. I have to thank my wife so much for giving me this opportunity to be in microscopy. My daughter is a graduate student in her last year at Washington University in St. Louis in social work, so she can be a diabetic educator.
Wow.
And I've done about 30,000 demonstrations now, conversations with people about what they're doing and how the quality of their blood responds to their everyday lifestyle choices. And that's what, I don't ever tell anybody what to do. I'm not a doctor. That's what doctors do. They tell you, oh, take 2 of those and call them in the morning. But I look at their blood, and their blood tells me what questions to ask them. Yesterday, I asked, there was a missionary family from Mexico that came up to see me, and one of their daughters, they had 3 children between the ages of 9 and 5, and the 7-year-old was a type 1 diabetic. And so I asked her, Vega, to provide a drop of blood, and so she said, oh yeah, I can do that. She does that every day. to test her blood sugars. That's about all you need is a drop of capillary blood from your fingertip. And I said, did you ever wonder what was in that blood beside the number? Because diabetics take a drop of blood and get a number. Where's their blood sugar? And so I put it under the microscope, magnified it about 15,000 times, and we saw these, 3 or 4 inch big red blood cells. And she was amazed. And we were able to talk to her about the chocolate and the sugar that she ate because I saw it in her blood. And there was also some Sputnik looking like, red blood cells. They had spikes coming out of them. And there weren't many of them, but there were a few, and those were very disturbed red blood cells. I explained that to her parents and to her. She was quite inquisitive. But then after I completed a book of findings for her, then the mom said, okay, it's my turn because she's having some issues. And I took a look at her blood, and every red blood cell was disturbed, highly disturbed, had spikes. I call that a red blood cell germinating into bacteria. It was going through the biological transformation. And every single one. And I said, so I asked, what are you doing? And she says she tries to be as healthy as she can. She's been a little bit off her schedule this last week and a half because of coming here to see me and having a couple other meetings. Otherwise, they're in Mexico. And I said, do you use apple cider vinegar? And she says, yes, every day. And she said, well, not for the last 2.5 or a week and a half because of these meetings. She said, why? It doesn't look too good. And I said I asked her other questions about what she's eating, how she's living, her activity. And it came down to the amount of apple cider vinegar that she was taking was so disturbing to her blood that it wasn't, and I don't like to use good, bad, or otherwise, but it didn't look normal. It was greatly, greatly disturbed. And, I was able to tell her at that point, cancer is diagnosed by a disturbed red blood cell, the site of a disturbed red blood cell. I said, I don't diagnose, I'm not a doctor. But these are disturbed red blood cells, every one of them. And then we saw bacterial rods floating around in environment that the cells were in. And that was because of the red blood cells going through this biological transformation. And I really think of it like this, Nikki. We are spiritual beings in an earthly body. And so we have this spiritual energy that when that energy is in an environment at 7.365, which is optimal for blood, then that energy is represented as a red blood cell. When that environment falls, goes just below 7.3, becomes a little bit more acidic than what is optimal for the energy to be at a red blood cell, then that energy, which doesn't die, it changes. And energy below 7.3 and above 7.0, that very, very narrow range, is optimal for bacteria, yeast, which is a fungus, and mold. Mm-hmm. And when we are sick and have a disease, we are in the bacterial, yeast, fungus, or mold stage. The mold stage is death, dying, or cancer. The yeast stage or fungus stage is where major debilitating illnesses like diabetes, heart disease, fibromyalgia occur. The bacterial stage is where we catch a cold, or we get whatever's going around, or we have aches and pains. Whereas homeostasis at a pH of 7.365, which our body tries to maintain if we can supply our body with the nutrients to sustain that pH, that's homeostasis, and everything's good. But she wasn't in homeostasis. In fact, with the amount of yeast and fungus, she was approaching the mold stage. And so we shared that. We had this conversation. I didn't diagnose, that's not what I do. But she has a real understanding now of what she's doing. And the main thing that she was doing, she says she takes apple cider vinegar all day.
What?
Every day.
Why? Why
And
is
I
she
said,
doing that?
because in her words, it's supposed to be good for you. And she knew, she scheduled with me about a month or month and a half ago. She wanted to be as good as she could be. And she thought apple cider vinegar was alkalizing.
I thought the same thing. I really
Yes.
thought that it was alkalizing.
And it by itself is not. It's highly acidic, it's toxic. Some people call it poison.
Wow, I'm really shocked by this. I really am. And I have to say that I use raw apple cider vinegar in my salads.
Yep.
Now, is that going to be affecting my blood, or is that okay to do a little bit?
Well, your blood has the answer to that. And I would think if you add that much acidic in liquid to your alkaline blood, it will have an adverse effect. But here's what it does. And I have this thought that when they first found out about apple cider vinegar having these alkalizing effects and making people feel better back in the 50s, they didn't complete the story. They didn't tell the rest of the story. Because when you take, I play this little vignette in my head when I think about somebody taking apple cider vinegar, and they don't take it straight because it says right on the bottle, it'll burn out your esophagus. This is so toxic. So when you mix it with water or in a salad a little bit and then consume it, this little vignette of mine says, oh my gosh, here comes all this acid. Quick, get all the calcium from your bones and teeth that you can to buffer this acid. Not enough. Quick, get all the potassium from your vital organs. Yeah, your brain, your heart, your liver, your kidneys. Get the magnesium from every muscle in your body. And oh yeah, we need the sodium too. Get it from all throughout your body. We've got to buffer this acid. And about that time, the apple cider vinegar goes through you so quickly that what you're left with are these major alkaline buffering reserves: the calcium, the magnesium, the potassium, and the sodium. And people feel better. But it's your own reserves in response to this highly toxic. They're rotten apples. They're not hand-picked. They're apples that have fallen to the ground, and then they're tumbled, and they create more mycotoxic activity to get more rotten. They combine that with sugar or alcohol or sugar alcohol, which has a very low pH, and then vinegar, which has a pH of 3. Those things combined are not alkaline. What they do is like it's a big size 12 kick in the butt kind of thing to get you going. It causes you to rob your body of the calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium that are stored in your body to help keep and maintain the integrity of the pH of your blood at 7.365. So now you're using that every time you put apple cider vinegar on your salad or in your drink.
So what about any other vinegars? Balsamic vinegar or white vinegar?
Vinegar is vinegar. The pH is around 3. And balsamic vinegar, a real favorite to many. My family's Italian. My wife and my kids are Italian citizens even. But they love their balsamic vinegar, ever so slight the amount. What you have to do if you're doing acid, which is the vinegar, then you have to be able to return to balance somehow. So you have to do something that's very alkaline.
Mm-hmm.
And even without respect to, doing acid, our body should do about 75-80% alkaline just to store up the reserves, because we're alkaline by design, but we're acidic by function. We breathe in oxygen, extremely alkalizing. And what do we breathe out? Carbon dioxide, extremely toxic. When we move, we create lactic acid, and we've got to get rid of those things. So we have to be more alkaline than acid. If we're more acid, then we're sick.
Yeah.
We don't feel good.
What about
And
lemon?
lemon is wonderfully alkalizing. And it will, and you might think, oh, if you just, what about the citrus acid? It's a low sugar citrus acid that has sodium bicarbonate in it, which is highly alkalizing. So adding a little bit to your salad, adding a little bit to your water is something I do every day.
Okay.
To help alkalize.
Well, thank goodness, because I'm now thinking to myself, I have to get off of the vinegars. What can I do? And I've always thought that lemon was alkalizing, but I was just waiting on the edge of my seat right now for you to say, no, it's extremely acid. So I'm glad that you said, no, it's alkaline. So that's good. I'm happy about that.
Limes and lemons, limes, and grapefruits are alkalizing. So
Wow.
there aren't, oranges are not. They're highly toxic. They're highly acidic. And
Oranges?
many of the other, yeah. That's why I always wondered why, if somebody has a cold, do we do orange juice? Because that, first of all, crystallizes in your blood. The alkaline blood actually crystallizes the citrus acid from oranges and plugs up your blood with these solid rock acid crystals, and it just doesn't help. I know there's vitamin C. If it's pasteurized, orange juice is pretty much just sugar.
Mm-hmm. What about any other juice? Apple juice?
The apple juice isn't as well, if it's green apples, the more ripe the apples, the more the sugar. Mm-hmm. So, in the same with bananas, there's a lot of questions going around. What color banana do you eat? I eat green ones, and because they have less sugar. The rotten ones, the black ones, are just plain sugar, and that's part of the magic, the miracle of banana bread. You use the worst bananas you can because they're sugar with a little banana flavor in them.
Right.
But
Makes sense.
And there's a lot of acid alkaline food charts out there and available, and they're not all correct. So you do have to be careful.
Do you have one that you can recommend that I can send along with this video?
I can send you one.
That would be excellent.
And and you can also go to the pH Miracle. It's in the pH Miracle for Diabetes and the pH Miracle for Weight Loss books. I think it's the best in the pH Miracle for weight loss. My story is in the pH Miracle for diabetes, and I did some research for the pH Miracle for weight loss. They're all Dr. Young and his books that are available. But those are the ones that have been tested. It's an ASH test. So it's there's a method to do it. It isn't just, oh, does it look acidic or anything like that. You actually dry it and test the ash.
Right.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, you're amazing. Thank you so much. That was a world of information. Honestly, I can pick your brain all day.
Let's do that again, because this is kind of fun now that we got it figured out.
Let's do it again. Actually, I'm not sure when I'm going to be coming to Wisconsin, but I think that we should get together and do a video. Are you in Waukesha?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic to meet you. I still remember you being in the class and speaking, and everything that you said was so profound and really left a definite impact on my life. I remember you speaking about how when we bless our food, that it does impact your blood cells. And my eyes were wide open, and I'm going, I can eat McDonald's and bless my food and it's not going to do anything to me. But
and actually that very example, I'm not promoting McDonald's. I don't think you are either, but I was doing a seminar in Ohio, a little town in Ohio, and a lady traveled 12 hours, driving 12 hours to see me at noon on a Sunday. She'd been in the car since midnight. Mm-hmm. And I said, and she wanted to see me, and it was my, lunch break. And I said, well, I had all kinds of people scheduled. She said, well, can I just come in and see you, while you're doing lunch? And I said, well, yeah, come on in. And I took a look at her blood. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was normal. And how odd this is she is one of 6 blood tests where the first time I saw that person and looked at their blood, it was normal. Mm-hmm. 6 out of over 30,000. It's not too common. It's normal, but not common. And I said, wait a minute, you've been on the road for 12 hours? Did you get any sleep? Well, she said, well, no. I said, did you eat anything? She said, well, I stopped at McDonald's. And I said, what do you do for a living? And she says, she's a medium. Wow. And I said, did you bless your food at McDonald's? She said, yes. And and she blesses her being, her every day. Yeah. And really, it was part of my journey too, to have met and talked with, 30,000 people. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, that is.
And I've really learned that really the most alkalizing thing you can do is to love. Mm. So, if for people that, are having a hard time getting off of apple cider vinegar, for instance, just love their husband, love their wife, love their kids, love life.
Love life.
And bless your
love
food.
It. Well, bless you. Bless you.
And Nikki, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all of your knowledge with us. And I'm definitely going to connect with you when we know that we're going to go to Wisconsin, and let's do something. All right.
Got my calendar ready.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Okay. One last thing. I woke up this morning thinking, I'm going to be on the Nikki Jencen Show.
So, wow, incredible, right? That was so incredible. And thank you so much to Jeff for being our guest today and for blowing our minds. If you would like to get in contact with Jeff, here is his information. please go and contact Jeff. Go get your own blood check, and so that you can see maybe what's going on with your blood. Also, in the description below is more ways to contact Jeff. Please let him know if you would like to book an appointment with him. And also, I hope that you got some serious value out of today's show. Please share this with your mama friends or with your papa friends. It doesn't matter, whoever needs to hear this information. Thank you so much for watching. And please go to my Instagram at the Nikki Jencen Show. Follow me on Facebook as well. And let's get social. All right, see you next week.
Bye.
We dancing,